In a small, sleepy town, nestled among the green hills and winding roads, there was a school where the sun didn't always shine on the hearts of its students. Popkin was one of them. His brown eyes were wide with innocence, his short frame chubby and round, a stark contrast to the tall, slender students who roamed the school halls. He was often the subject of jokes, his body, his skin color, his voice, and the laughter that followed him was like a shadow that refused to go away. Popkin was used to the whispers and sneers. He had learned to ignore them the best he could, though some days it felt impossible. The cruel words, the stares, the mockery. Nothing in his life had prepared him for how much the world could hurt. He had always been the last one picked for games, the one who ate lunch alone, the one who dreamed of being something greater than his classmates saw. But it wasn't just his classmates who mocked him. It was the feeling of being invisible, of being other. He was different, too short, too fat, too dark. The students who were born with fair skin, with slender builds and clear, confident voices, made sure that Popkin knew he was different. In their world, Popkin didn't belong. And though he never said it out loud, it hurt him to his core. It wasn't just the boys who bullied him. The girls were worse. Lily, the girl Popkin secretly admired, laughed the loudest when the others called him names. She was beautiful, tall, blonde, and perfect in every way. At least, that's how Popkin saw her. He watched her from the corner of the cafeteria every day, his heart racing when she passed him by. One day, Popkin found the courage to give her a letter, a note tucked into an envelope that read, "Lily, I really like you. Would you like to hang out sometime?" He had practiced the words in his mind for days, terrified of rejection. But when the letter was read aloud by Charles, the school bully, it became a joke. The whole cafeteria erupted into laughter, and Lily, the one person he thought might understand, turned her face away, as if she had never known him. The moment broke him. It wasn't long before the bullying grew worse. The whispers turned to shoves in the hallways. The laughter became insults shouted in his face. Popkin was not just the subject of cruel words. He was the punchline to every joke. The words fat, ugly, and lazy echoed in his mind day after day. He cried himself to sleep every night, his pillow wet with tears. He didn't know how much longer he could take it. But fate, as cruel as it seemed, had a strange way of working things out. One day, Popkin was sitting beneath a large oak tree in the park near his house, a book open in front of him, trying to escape his torment for a few hours. The wind rustled the pages, and the world seemed to slow down around him. That's when he saw him, an elderly man, hunched over, with a gentle smile that seemed to brighten the cloudy afternoon. He was walking slowly, leaning on a cane. But there was something about his presence that made Popkin look up. "Hello there," the man said, his voice soft yet firm. "Mind if I join you?" Popkin blinked in surprise, then nodded. He wasn't used to people approaching him, let alone speaking to him with such warmth. "My name's Harold," the man continued, sitting beside Popkin without hesitation. "I come here sometimes to watch the world go by. It's a good place for thinking." Popkin didn't know what to say, but the old man didn't seem to mind. He sat beside him, quietly watching the birds flutter in the trees. After a few moments, Harold spoke again, his eyes twinkling with a knowing look. "You know, son," Harold said thoughtfully, "you seem like you have a lot on your mind. I've been around long enough to know that sometimes the world can be heavy on a young soul like yours." Popkin was taken aback by the man's perceptiveness. It wasn't often that anyone noticed how heavy his heart felt. He didn't know how to explain it, but somehow, he found himself telling Harold everything. The bullying, the rejection, the loneliness. Harold listened quietly, never interrupting, his eyes full of understanding. "You don't have to carry this burden alone, Popkin," Harold said gently. "The world may not always see you for who you truly are, but that doesn't mean you can't shine. And you know, the hardest times can often lead to the greatest victories." Popkin didn't fully understand Harold's words at the time, but something in them resonated deep within him. Maybe Harold was right. Maybe there was more to him than what others saw. The old man offered Popkin a lifeline, a chance to learn, to grow, and to understand the power of self-belief. Over the next few months, Harold became his mentor, teaching him not only about business but also about resilience and finding purpose in the face of adversity. "Remember, Popkin," Harold would say, "the best way to rise above the hate is to focus on your own greatness. Let the world's noise fade away, and create something that will make them see you for who you really are." Popkin threw himself into learning. While other kids spent their time on video games or hanging out with friends, Popkin immersed himself in books, attending workshops, and even volunteering at local businesses. He learned about entrepreneurship, finance, and creativity. Slowly but surely, his business acumen began to grow. Popkin discovered a passion for creating things, small trinkets, personalized items, and artwork that brought joy to others. With Harold's support, Popkin began to create his own small business, selling handmade items online. His business was modest at first, but Popkin poured his heart into it, working tirelessly. His products were unique, filled with meaning and craftsmanship, and soon, people began to take notice. Word of mouth spread, and his business started to grow. The small online store turned into a full-fledged company, and Popkin's confidence grew with it. People started to admire him, not for his size or the color of his skin, but for his perseverance, his kindness, and his work ethic. Popkin's business was more than just a company. It was a reflection of his soul, a soul that had been battered but had refused to break. But Popkin wasn't just focused on making money. He remembered the days of loneliness and rejection, and he wanted to make sure no one else felt the way he did. He launched programs to help underprivileged children and those who were bullied, providing mentorship, scholarships, and support. Popkin's success was not just financial. It was emotional, spiritual, and he owed it all to the lessons he had learned from Harold, who had shown him that greatness didn't come from fitting in. It came from standing tall despite the odds. Years later, Popkin stood in front of a crowded auditorium, receiving an award for his contributions to charity and entrepreneurship. The applause was deafening, but there was one moment that stood out among the rest. As he scanned the audience, his eyes landed on a group of familiar faces. Charles, Robbie, and Lily. They looked older, and they were staring at him with wide eyes. Popkin could tell they didn't recognize the man he had become. Charles was the first to approach him after the ceremony, his expression unreadable. "Popkin," he began, his voice tight. I owe you an apology. I was cruel to you. We were all cruel." Popkin smiled, his heart lighter than it had ever been. "It's all right, Charles," he said calmly. "The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is who we are today." Lily stepped forward hesitantly. "Popkin, I didn't know. I was wrong. I should have never turned away from you." Popkin looked at her for a long moment, memories of their shared classroom flooding back. But instead of anger, there was compassion in his eyes. "It's okay, Lily," he said softly. "You didn't know what I was going through, but I've forgiven you. I've forgiven all of you." And with that, Popkin's heart finally felt free. He had become the person he always knew he could be: strong, successful, and, most importantly, kind. The boy who had been laughed at, rejected, and ignored was now the man who would change the world for the better. And though the scars of his past would always be with him, they were no longer what defined him. What defined him now was his resilience, his heart, and his unwavering belief that greatness could come from even the darkest of places. And with that, Popkin's journey from tears to triumph had come full circle.